matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to the Outer Voices podcast. We are your hosts, Keem and Ez. How's it going, everybody? I was not ready for the yeah.
Which is hilarious because I do something like that basically every time.
I wasn't ready for that particular one. That one took me out for a little bit. But
glad I can amuse, Keem. Glad I can amuse.
We the world deserves some amusement, and that's actually pertinent for today's show. So we'll get to that in a moment, though. But we are back for another show, another week, another set of wild and crazy things happening in the world. I've personally had a kind of rough week, and I could use just a little time to talk about stuff. Ezra Miller still continues to terrorize the world. If anyone's following that, it's the wildest, just most awful thing.
I am only tangential. I have only ever been tangentially aware of Ezra Miller as somebody who doesn't watch any of the superhero anythings. I know enough about them to know that they're in a superhero show. Right?
So the thing about Ezra Miller is not truly famous enough to be as controversial as they are right now and be getting away with it.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, the actor Ezra Miller has been on an absolute tear throughout the world at this point. So they had done a bunch of kind of fucked up stuff before, ranging from domestic abuse charges, assault stuff from different people. And they even did a short film about the policeman who murdered, I think it was Mike Brown.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They did that, didn't they?
Yeah, and how they sympathized with the policeman who was just doing their job and felt like he was in danger. Yeah.
Excuse me, that is a pretty interesting take to have and be putting out there.
So, Ezra Miller has already just been getting away with just stupid shit for a while. But in recent months, Ezra Miller has been arrested and charged with assault twice in Hawaii against random people on the street, drunkenly.
Okay, I have a rant about Hawaii.
Don't go to Hawaii?
But
is the don't go to Hawaii?
Don't go to Hawaii.
Don't go to Hawaii.
Don't go to Hawaii. And if you're gonna make the already kind of questionable decision to go as an outsider, especially as a white outsider, to Hawaii, don't act like a fucking dickhead. Be fucking respectful, Jesus. Anyway, that's the short version of the rant about Hawaii. Don't go to Hawaii, guys. Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't go to Hawaii.
Stand in solidarity with Native Hawaiians who have said, "Hey, white tourists, you come here and it's wrecking our home."
Mm-hmm.
So don't go to Hawaii.
You certainly don't go there and start committing assault against Hawaiians, and then grooming and kidnapping their 15-year-old children.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that, because that's what Ezra Miller did.
Ezra Miller. Fuck
and
off.
Ezra Miller absconded with a 15-year-old that they were grooming. After the parents went and got a restraining order issued, disappeared. Also while they disappeared, they were taunting the police via Twitter about how they can never find them.
Who are you? Super secret agent that you're that far off the grid that the police could never find you? The fuck?
Um,
Sorry.
another 12-year-old, another mother and 12-year-old were granted a temporary harassment order in Massachusetts. Now, from Hawaii to Massachusetts, alleging that Ezra Miller also was trying to groom the 12-year-old with in of this family. Um, and once again, including showing up at the family's house wearing a bulletproof vest and brandishing a gun while inappropriately touching the child.
What the
My,
actual fuck?
mind you, they still have not caught Ezra Miller.
Christ.
Furthermore, the police raided Ezra Miller's home to find another single mother there in the home that they had been allegedly taking care of with a child. And when they walked in, they were surrounded by drugs, and the child had a bullet in their mouth chewing on it.
Holy Christ.
It continues. Ezra Miller was then spotted in somewhere in northern Europe, attacking a fan in the streets.
Good Lord.
Just a whole ass menace across continents, and still hasn't been arrested. And I think the most amazing thing about these reports about Ezra Miller is they keep referring to them as controversial star Ezra Miller or troubled star Ezra Miller. Tap somebody on TV, 2 seconds, whole career just got fucked over. Ezra Miller is a whole goddamn supervillain out here. They're just a little troubled. But yeah, it's the Ezra Miller stuff has been absolutely wild, and unlike again Will Smith, they have it canceled every movie he was working on because of that slap. Ezra Miller's not only not been taken off the projects they're in, but the projects are continuing to go on, and some even being re-released.
Fucking ridiculous.
So it's wild. It's just absolutely wild what you can get away with if you're the right skin color.
Yeah.
But speaking of comic book stars, I actually went to see Thor: Love and Thunder. Pretty funny movie, but it also got me thinking about some stuff, and along with some other recent things. So that's gonna actually bring the funniness of it brings us to the topic of the day, and specifically, I want to talk about there's been a big thing over how comedy can exist in 2022. So I want to talk about discuss comedy for a minute, and even get into satire, because there's some interesting things that popped up recently with satire that I think we should discuss and talk about. So I'll start it out because this is the most recent thing. So Netflix, because Netflix is fucking irresponsible at this point, and also just kind of a shitty. They're all pretty shitty, but Netflix is pretty shitty. Very quietly, released a new quote-unquote Dave Chappelle comedy special, and I want to make sure the words comedy are very much in quotes, because this was not a stand-up special, even though it was listed as a stand-up special. This was a speech he gave at his former high school. And in this speech, he's given to high school students who he was going to speak at a graduation, but they protested due to his transphobic jokes in this last comedy special, and his doubling down on those things. And he gets up there, it's a 40-minute speech, to criticize school children about why they are being mean to him. By the way, like, you're going to 17, 18-year-olds and going, stop being mean to me. He told them it is unfair that they criticize him for making transphobic jokes, that they're just being the instruments of his oppression, and basically how everybody's being mean to him and how hurt he is that he's been criticized. And it just, you hear this a lot with comedians, quote unquote, and it's usually older comedians, and I want to point that out too. It's old comedians that we can't do comedy anymore because everybody will get canceled and everybody's too sensitive and this and that. First of all, I'm just gonna say this, and this is actually from Cat Williams, which very surprising that he would make this statement, but Cat Williams said that for comedians who complain about they're getting canceled, they can't make jokes, and he said, if you can't make jokes without getting canceled or without offending, like being offensive to people, then you're probably not funny in the first place. And like, that really stood out to me. First of all, it's just like, true. Now, I will say, I don't think, there is no offensive comedy. Actually, no. There's not. There like, comedy is offensive, like all kinds of offensive to someone. However, there are things like, there's difference between offensive and just plain hateful. And I don't think, it's not that I don't think the comedians get that. I think the concept of quote unquote cancel culture has shifted the narrative on how those comedians interact with comedy itself. Because now the idea of being canceled actually gets you more money than not doing it, because it gets you more eyes from the people who support you and the people who don't. It's going to draw more eyes to you, and it's going to make you more money. Controversy breeds money.
Any press is good press.
Exactly. So it's a lot easier to not even, for a lot of comedians, it's easier to just not even be funny and tell jokes, but to be offensive, have people get mad, and make a headline. I'll say this for Dave Chappelle initially. The first controversy that came out where it started the quote unquote cancel train or whatever, that's the one special I watched. And the point of what he was saying was, I certainly agree with as a black queer person. And it was, unfortunately, the visible face of queerness in America is white.
Yes.
And also, you can get away with a lot more stuff as a queer white person than a black person.
See also Ezra Miller.
See also, and that's why I brought up Ezra Miller. I'm building bridges to make everything connect. Comedians would call that taking bits and turning them into chunks. Sorry. But